Welcome to Subramani. Today I'm going to talk to you about a banker, and let me call it this way, an overconfident banker who's made all possible investing mistakes, and he liked to summarize it. So more or less his own words, but obviously I can't put him on screen, he's still employed somewhere. Let us look at the mistakes he made, and it was so logical. And this guy is not greedy at all. I mean, a little bit of greed, which everybody has maybe, but I would never classify him as greedy. So the first mistake he made was, the minute he qualified, he thought that the best investments is to not have any investment advisor. So the best thing to invest was in gold. So right in the 80s, he must have qualified more or less at the same time, slightly younger than me. He invested a lot in gold. And gold during that period underperformed like anything, and afterwards he decided that gold, his only three investments were gold, life insurance policies, and bank fixed deposits. Bank fixed deposits because he was in a bank, and so therefore he thought it should be, he was in an NBFC and a bank, so he thought it should be in banks only because banks were safer than NBFC. His father was also a very banking oriented, PSU oriented person, so all his money was there, most of his money was there, and whatever had to be invested only in LIC because LIC was government. So he had LIC policies, he had savings bank account interest and fixed deposit interest. That was only income for him. After some time, he learnt about index funds. So he would consult me once in a while, asking me some questions which would be inane. And so he said, now I have learned that I don't need any investment advisor or anything. I can invest on my own. So he bought index funds. Little did he realize this was the 1980s and 1990s. There was nothing called a direct plan, and he was paying about 2% interest, 2% AMC charges. Repeat, 2 plus it was. And he bought perhaps the worst index fund that he could have bought in India. He bought the LIC index fund because he thought the LIC index fund is an index fund after all. Even today, the LIC index fund is way high cost compared to many other funds, right? I think the regular plan of LIC is more than 1% per annum. Why would you pay so much of AMC charges for an index fund? You don't need to. You can go for cheaper funds. He didn't know that. He didn't know there were other funds which were better. So he was stuck in this index fund for a long time. When by the time he realized that he should be in direct equity and etc., he had lost a lot of money in AMC charges with an index fund which was not very efficient. Also, that was a time when he had sold some of his gold, and he did the greatest possible thing. He bought real estate. Again, perhaps at the highest price in the worst cities of the country. By this time, he had left his Chennai abode and gone out. He had gone to Mumbai, he had gone to Delhi. So he bought small properties in Delhi and in Mumbai, borrowing up to his eyebrows, right? Those properties didn't do well, but one property which he bought in Chennai had done better than these properties. So he was up to his eyebrows in debt, and he had a nice job, and he was quite okay because he thought all his real estate will pay off at a later stage. He could not find a tenant for his house in Delhi, and that was kept locked for a long time. So the EMIs were going, but his job had now brought him to Mumbai, and he thought he would buy a house in Mumbai, but he ended up buying in one of the suburbs of Mumbai, and he stayed in a flat given by the company, which was a nice flat in a good location. So he was now not getting any HRA because the bank had given him a flat. He was paying EMI for a Mumbai house and for a Delhi house. A Chennai house EMI was more or less getting over. His wife had quit her job, and he had 2 kids. Into this, and we would occasionally talk, and he thought the markets were terribly overpriced. maybe this was 2004, 2005. So whatever money he had in some other index funds, etc., and some direct equity. By this time, his NBFC had given him some shares, but his bank had given him some shares of another company. So some of those shares had done well, but as usual, our man panicked. I think 2004 or 2005. I remember he called me and said, the market is terribly overpriced. My share prices have doubled. I think I should get out. What do you think? And I had no point talking with him because he would anyway have done the decision already. He was just asking me for ratification. I hate such phone calls. I did not even, I said, yeah, I think market has gone up too much. To me, it didn't matter what he was doing because he's a friend and not really a person who would hold me by my advice. And advice he was not seeking. He was only seeking a ratification of what he was doing. So I said, yeah, maybe you should sell off. His real estate was doing disastrously, and now came the worst, the unkindest cut of them all. He lost his job. Luckily for him, because of his qualifications and networking skills, he got a job which overpaid him, but at least he went back to his hometown. Then he lost that job. Then he fooled around and he was perhaps trying to do something on his own. Then he got another job in another place. But amongst all this, his investments and equities had come down to zero because he thought even now during the COVID panic, I think March, April, he sold off all his equity, whatever was there. I don't think it would have been more than 20% or 15% of his portfolio. He sold all that and perhaps repaid some debt and bought some real estate. In the meanwhile, he also had some old life insurance policies. Luckily, he had taken some term insurance. He had some investments in mutual funds, etc., which was very little, not too much. All that put together, his equity exposure would not have been more than 10 to 15%. That was what it was. And of course, in the meanwhile, like all good, well-qualified MBAs, he also had bought Mahindra Holidays Resort vacations, which he couldn't use most of the time. He had bought the most expensive ones, and still he would not get rooms. And there were other friends who would go and stay in the same place at a cheaper price, right? So he had done all the mistakes. Wrong index fund. Can you imagine somebody doing that? Yes, wrong index fund. Excessive life insurance policies in terms of premium, not in terms of cover. Excessive investments in real estate. Very pricey houses also. The Delhi house was pricey. The Mumbai house was not very pricey, but just didn't move up in price. The Chennai house was pricey, but it was doing well for him. He was also staying there. He had another house in Chennai, then he bought another house in Chennai. So 3 Chennai houses, all given on rent. And for long times, they would remain without a tenant. So that was hurting him. But well, because he was a banker, he was getting money pretty cheap. So it didn't hurt him as badly as it would have hurt if he had done commercial rate borrowings. Then a holiday resort purchase, which was also perhaps bad. Now, typically he recognizes all this now because he does not have adequate money for retirement. What I call adequate and what he calls adequate are very far away. He has about half the money which I think he should have. He realizes that he should have invested more in experiences than in assets. He realizes that he was overconfident and it was absolutely necessary for him to seek advice. So you see, what happens is, even with people with a lot of good qualification, good experience, banker, which means access to some of the best fund managers, who are his friends, classmates, or friends of friends, right, with access to all the possible data, all the possible information, all the possible knowledge, application of data, all that, he still did badly with his investments. Why? I can think of only one thing: overconfidence bias. I am so well educated, I can read, I can understand, and I can do whatever I think, and I will not be wrong. Now, when I tell somebody get a term insurance, he goes and gets a term insurance with return of premium. It makes no sense. When I say get an index fund, you get the worst index fund. Again, doesn't make sense. You have to know the basics. When I say get a term insurance, I'm assuming that you know how to buy term insurance. If you don't, please get an advisor even to buy term insurance. Don't buy term insurance with return of premium. Don't buy term insurance just because the guy came to your house. It's much cheaper to buy term insurance online. How do you decide on which company? There are people who will tell you how to decide on which company, but largely a company with which you are comfortable and the rates are low. But if you don't know, please seek advice. Don't just sit there. So largely, how could I summarize his mistakes? One, overconfidence. Having read something somewhere and having a good degree is a very big impediment to investing. It makes you overconfident, which is what happened in his case. And getting into some old dogma, gold cannot go wrong or real estate cannot go wrong. How can I go wrong with real estate in Delhi? How can I go wrong with real estate in Mumbai? Chennai is a growing city. I can't go wrong with, you can go wrong with the location, you can go wrong with the builder, you can go wrong with so many other things, right? So if I'm buying real estate and if I'm not going to be using it, if I'm buying it just for it, hoping that it appreciates and I sell it off, at least I should consider advice from a builder who's a small builder who is building and ask him what he's doing, why he's doing, and buy it there. At least do that. If you're investing in an index fund, you need to know that you need to look at costs. If you buy term insurance, understand the purpose of term insurance, understand how much of term insurance. These are basics that you have to know and learn, or you have to seek advice, right? So do these basics. Don't be overconfident. You will have friends in the business. Ask them. Don't be suspicious of everybody, right? If I need dental care, the easiest person to turn for me is my classmate who is a dentist, who is my age obviously, and therefore he's got that many years experience. It takes him 15 minutes to solve the problem compared to some other dentist who will tinker around, potter around, and then say maybe we should look at this, maybe we should look at this. Use other people's experience. Why would I go and reinvent the wheel? If somebody has a doubt about equities, go and ask somebody who knows about equities and ask them before you invest, not afterwards. A lot of my family members have bought ULIPs. A lot of my family members invest in mutual funds. Never ever do I offer advice. They know I'm available, so if they want, they should come to me. It's not about ego. It's about not thrusting myself on them, saying, please listen to me, I'm the best. It's up to you, right? So seek advice and use that advice. Friends, relatives, brother, sister, sibling, nobody is going to come and give you advice. You have to ask them. When do you have to ask them? You have to ask them before. Are you worried that they will know what mess you have made? Well, you have made a mess and you have made a mess. That's it. So accept it. Don't get into an ego thing that he will find out. A lot of people are more worried that the advisor will find out rather than wanting to correct their own mistakes. I've seen clients who bought absolutely bad pension plans and life insurance plans. These are friends. And when you ask them, it is just that the bank came, gave me a pension plan, and now I can surrender only, I have to take a cut, or rather I can get only 1/3 of it as a surrender value. The remaining has to be annuitized. Well, there are pension plans which you could surrender 100%. Why did you not buy that? They didn't even know that such possibilities exist, right? So be careful about what you are doing. Ask. There are men are from Mars and women are from Venus, but men, if you don't know where you are going, if you do not have a roadmap, go and ask, create your roadmap. All that is part of what a financial advisor can, will, and should do for you. Thank you.